The Undertaker spent over 3 decades inside WWE rings, and in that time he became something close to sacred. A performer wrestlers lined up to work with because sharing the ring with the dead man meant instant credibility. But not every match made him proud. Behind the fog and the tolling bell, there were nights The Undertaker walked to the back angry, frustrated, or genuinely worried for his safety. Some opponents he simply never trusted. Others he blamed for putting his body and sometimes his legacy at risk. This is the story of the wrestlers Mark Calaway, the man behind the character, quietly could not stand working with, and the very different reasons why. Long before he was an urban legend, Mark Calaway was a basketball player out of Texas who stumbled into wrestling almost by accident. By 1990, he had been repackaged in WWF as The Undertaker, a silent, unkillable force who seemed to defy physics. The character worked because Calaway sold it with total conviction. But that conviction came with a price. He believed in protecting opponents, protecting the business, and never breaking the illusion. Anyone who threatened that trust became a problem. One of the earliest names tied to friction was Giant Gonzalez, the towering Argentine performer brought in during 1993, billed at over 7 feet tall. Gonzalez had almost no wrestling background, and it showed. Their pay-per-view match at that year's event drew notorious backlash, clumsy, stiff, and dangerous in places. Undertaker reportedly left frustrated, not out of ego, but because working with someone who couldn't control his own size and strength meant real risk of injury for both men. It wasn't personal, it was survival. Then came a very different kind of conflict, the Ultimate Warrior. By the time they crossed paths at WrestleMania 7 in 1991, Warrior was one of the hottest acts in the company, but his in-ring reputation told another story. Multiple wrestlers over the years described Warrior as unpredictable, missing spots, and difficult to communicate with mid-match. The Undertaker, a performer obsessed with structure and trust between opponents, found Warrior's chaotic style exhausting to work around. Their WrestleMania match itself became infamous for a different reason entirely. Warrior's manager, Sensational Sherry, appeared to be legitimately unconscious after taking a bump, sparking real concern ringside. It was chaos wrapped inside a marquee match, and it left a lasting impression on Undertaker about who he could rely on. Now here's where things get complicated, because not every uncomfortable pairing came from a lack of skill. Sometimes it came from timing colliding with real-world tragedy. In 2005, WWE introduced Muhammad Hassan, an Arab-American character designed to play on post-9/11 anxieties. The storyline escalated into masked men appearing to attack The Undertaker on SmackDown, an angle taped before the July 7th London bombings but airing just after them. UPN, the network broadcasting the show, was reportedly furious, and the segment was pulled from future airings. Undertaker, a performer who valued dignity in his stories, found himself tied to a controversy that had nothing to do with wrestling ability and everything to do with terrible timing. Hassan's push collapsed almost overnight, and he was quietly released within weeks. If there's one name fans always bring up, though, it's Brock Lesnar. Their first major encounters came in 2002 and 2003, when Lesnar was a genuine amateur wrestling prodigy thrown into the main event at lightning speed. Undertaker, according to accounts from wrestlers around that era, wasn't thrilled about working with someone so green carrying that much power. Lesnar was legitimately strong enough to hurt people without meaning to, and early on his control in the ring wasn't there yet. But here's the twist nobody expects. That early friction eventually turned into one of the most respected rivalries in company history. By the time they collided again in 2015, ending The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak the year before at Lesnar's hands, the two had built a mutual understanding forged through years of brutal, stiff, unforgettable matches. What started as distrust became one of Undertaker's most meaningful in-ring relationships. Sometimes the wrestler he hated working with the most became the one he trusted completely. Then there was the Great Khali, another oversized performer who entered WWE in 2006 with limited formal training. Their matches were criticized for being slow and awkward, and insiders have suggested Undertaker found Khali difficult to work with due to his lack of technical polish. Once again, it wasn't cruelty, it was caution. A career built on trust doesn't survive careless hands. What ties every one of these stories together isn't petty backstage drama. It's something deeper. The Undertaker treated the ring like sacred ground, a place where trust between two men decided whether someone walked out or got carried out. When that trust was missing, whether from inexperience, chaos, or outside controversy, he felt it immediately, and he remembered. By the time he stepped away from full-time competition, Undertaker had wrestled almost everyone the industry had to offer, from legends to rookies barely out of developmental. Some of those matches made him a myth. A few nearly broke him, and the ones that frustrated him the most weren't always about talent. They were about safety, timing, and the fragile trust that keeps professional wrestling from becoming something far more dangerous than entertainment. In the end, the dead man's real story was never just about who he beat. It was about who he trusted enough to bury him, and who he never fully did.